Okay, so our next speaker is Dave Chapple, is the Secretary of Bridgewater TUC. Thank you, Dave.
International Workers' Day greetings from a lifelong Somerset trade unionist, a school cleaner for 11 years, a postman for 38, and a shop steward for 35 of those years, to the Wells Constituency Labour Party for organising this, the first May Day march anywhere in Somerset for 24 years. Solidarity also to Wells, Cathedral City, from Somerset's working class capital, Bridgewater. Bridgewater, a town where today 14 out of 16 town councillors, 10 out of 15 district councillors and 2 out of 3 county councillors are Labour. Bridgewater, home of 17 pub-based workers' carnival clubs, which organise at weekly meetings of 10 to 30 members on November's first Saturday, the greatest West Country working class cultural event, one enjoyed by 100,000 people from all over. Bridgewater, the home of Robert Blake, Republican General at Sea, if not a full regicide, who killed the first royalists near Frome in the Civil War. Bridgewater, where after the Battle of Sedgemoor in 1685, no member of the royal family set foot in the town, certainly no monarch, for over 300 years. Bridgewater, the town, a century later, that remembered Judge Jeffreys sending 800 Monmouth rebels to Barbados sugar plantations and slavery. Remember that so well that radicals like John Chubb organised Britain's first ever petition against the slave trade. Bridgewater, which even if the town's large factories have been replaced by warehouses, still hosts militant trade union organised workplaces like Unite the Union and Refresco Gerber and Argos, who have struck for 2 weeks and 3 weeks successfully, respectively, in the last few years. Like Hinkley Point C construction workers, who won back lost bad weather wages only a few weeks ago after a successful and legal sit-in in the canteen, and when the directors went to have their meal, they fled in terror. Like my former workplace, the Royal Mail Delivery Office in Bridgewater, where still national and regional managers are regularly thrown into panic upon rumours of yet another wildcat strike being planned by the CW reps and committee. But what of the rest of Somerset? What of the Mendip area? What of Wells itself? Well, it seems clear now, 33 years after the epic NUM strike of 1984-5, that Tory government's plan, starting with the miners, to shut down whole industries just in order to weaken or eliminate strong trade unions. Over the next decade, Thatcher, Major and Blair were glad to wipe out 90% of UK manufacturing to critically wound trade unionism as a whole. So Somerset, too, has now been almost completely deindustrialised. We now have hardly any large factories that actually make things. Look at our losses. The dozen or so Somerset Clark's shoe factories, including 800 jobs gone in Bridgewater. Moorland and Bailey sheepskins in Glastonbury. Iconic printers like Butler and Tanner, Marden, Purnell's. Cider makers like Showering, Evercreek's Dairy, Nutricia, St Cuthbert's paper mill at Wookey, a well-organised Sogat plant for decades. And for Wells, skilled engineering jobs in factories like Clare's and EMI. So it wasn't just the cities, not just the NUM. Somerset has also descended within 2 generations, surely, from a place where working class people, through their union, can negotiate reasonable wages, conditions and pensions, to a dog-eats-dog individual race to the bottom. Bullying supervisors, 0 hours, no holidays, no sick pay, no pension rights, no rights at all. But why then am I proud to announce here and now that in the last few weeks, as Wells hosted the launch of Mendip Trade Union Council, the newest local trade union council in the UK. Well, I'll tell you why, because trade unionism still exists in the Mendips. There are reps and stewards and union branch officers in every town, nook and cranny and many villages across the wider Mendip area, because rural trade unionism can still thrive. So in every village school, in every small town Royal Mail delivery office, every time you see a BT outreach worker shimmying up a telegraph pole, in most supermarkets, you will come across trade unionists in my union, the CWU, in the National Education Union, and NASUWT, Unison, Unite, GMB and USDOR. So if you are a Mendip area trade unionist, join us at our next meeting in Wells on Monday the 21st. Now, what of the radical and socialist tradition in Mendip and Wells itself? A few names you might not know about. George Howell was a bricklayer, a shoemaker and a founding chartist. He was also an autodidactic historian and secretary of the TUC Parliamentary Committee in the 1870s. That's the equivalent of Francis O'Grady today. George was born and grew up in Rington. Fred Swift was a Ridlington coal miner, an ILP socialist, and with the Bridgewater railwayman James Young, one of the first two socialists elected to Somerset County Council during the First World War. And then there's Arthur James Cook. A.J. Cook, born at Wookey in 1883, brought up in Cheddar, where he worked on Caleb Durbin's dairy farm, became at 17 a Rhondda miner in South Wales, a fiery and revolutionary syndicalist orator, jailed for sedition and for opposing World War I, and finally, leader of the Miners' Federation during the General Strike and Miners' Lockout of 1926. And if you think that Wells has no radical trade union history, well, the evidence is in the TUC archives. During the General Strike, the local Wells General Strike Committee, led by railwaymen, ordered 200 copies of the British work of the TUC's Daily during those epic 9 days. Now look, 2 generations ago, Labour and Tory were almost neck and neck in Wells, and the Liberals were nowhere. In the 1945 general election, the Tory majority over Labour was reduced to only 2,465. In 1950, Labour polled 18,000 votes to the Tories' 20,000 in a massive turnout of 87.8%. And best of all, in 1951, Di Llewellyn, former Welsh miner and veteran international brigader from the Spanish Civil War, then the Somerset Miners agent, won 21,500 Labour votes in Wells and again came a narrow second. And it wasn't until 1974 that the Liberals overtook Labour in Wells. You can never tell me, looking back at that astonishing working class Labour support in Wells, a cathedral city for goodness sake, the belly of the Tory beast, that what happened once a long time ago could not happen again. But better still, Labour winning Wells. Why not? People can change very quickly. After all, 50 years ago, a fortnight before the French Revolution of May 1968, learned Marxist historians were predicting decades of working class subservience. To start winning, but we do need to organise campaigns show solidarity on a Somerset county-wide basis. From Dalverton to Bath, Portishead to Chard, Burnham-on-Sea to Frome, Haynsham to Yeovil, Radstock to Wellington, Cheddar to Wincanton. Yes, all public transport does make this difficult. You can get a bus from Clevedon or Wells to Bristol up to 10:30 at night. Yet try and get to Bridgewater from Glastonbury or Burnham-on-Sea from Bridgewater after 7 o'clock and you'd be walking. Yet this is the same first group company. The reason? The Tory Somerset County Council, to its disgrace, is the only West Country county that cannot be bothered to have a county transport forum. Then again, how many Tory councillors have ever caught a bus? Somerset needs county-wide independent campaigns supported by the 6 Somerset Trade Union councils and all local Labour parties. Campaign against library closures, save Highbridge Library and others. Against cuts and closures to NHS community hospitals. Support teaching and other education unions fighting academy attacks on their pay and conditions. Against Tory County Council cuts to children's centres, children and adult disability learning services. Against outsourcing of NHS district hospital non-medical staff. The list of dismantled Somerset public services is now almost endless. I suggest that from next year, 2019, trade unionists and socialists in every Somerset town host an event such as a public meeting on May the 1st in their own place. But for all Somerset towns to come together here in Wells, the centre of our county, to celebrate International Workers' Day every year on this first May Saturday, as we're doing today. Today, we still honour the sacrifices of those anarchist workers in Chicago who in the late 1880s suffered state execution for fighting for the 8-hour day. But in dying for our socialist cause, they lit a torch that surely, still, if sometimes dimly, burns. 2018 should be the year that Somerset's workers get off their knees, learn that if you fight, you can win, but if you never fight, you always lose. Don't be a dropout. Get up, get into it, get involved. Refuse to lose. 3 rap titles from the greatest of all popular musicians, James Brown. Get involved in what? Refuse to lose what? Fight for what? I hope you don't mind me ending with a personal point of view. Remember, I was a Labour parliamentary candidate once. I've been a Somerset socialist agitator for over 40 years. I fight for a country that is run by a radical industrial workplace democracy that has priority over councils and parliament. Community assemblies, in other words. They used to be called Soviets. The old and still unachieved Chartist demand for annual elections with recallable delegates. An anti-militarist, non-nuclear federation of the nations, where the rotor blades of Westland Eldorado PLC really are turned into wind and underwater turbine blades, where swords really can become ploughshares, where here in Somerset and throughout the world, the long-suffering working class, the peasants and the poor are anything but meek, but are so bloody well organised that they really can inherit the earth.